The call came in at 10:47 on a Tuesday morning, and Cody was the one who answered it. I was in the back of the shop resoldering a capacitor bank on an old projection unit when he appeared in the doorway holding the cordless phone at arm's length the way he did when the caller was being difficult. "It's the Halcyon Grand," he said. "Lady named Constance Mercer. Says their whole security system is down. Board meeting at 1 o'clock. He paused. "She sounds like she's about 4 seconds from yelling." I set down the soldering iron and wiped my hands on my apron. "Tell her I'll be there by 11:15. Cody relayed it. I heard the pause on the other end even from across the room. Then Cody said carefully, "She wants to know if you have, enterprise-level experience." He was trying not to smile. "Tell her I'll be there by 11:15, I said again. I loaded the van the way I always do. The gray kit bag in first, the fault code notebook on the passenger seat where I can reach it, the spare fiber patch cables in the bin behind the driver's side. Cody had the door up before I'd finished. He's 16 and already better at anticipating a job than most grown men I've worked with. "You want me to call ahead?" he asked. "No need." I pulled out of the lot onto Route 11 and pointed the van toward the mountain. The Halcyon Grand sits about 11 miles outside of town on a ridge that looks down over the valley. It was built in the 1940s as a hunting retreat and rebuilt twice since. The current version is all glass and quarried stone, the kind of place that charges $300 a night and assumes that price means the problems don't reach you. I've been up there once before, 2 years ago, to look at a kitchen display panel. The events coordinator had met me at the loading dock then, same as now. Except this time there was no events coordinator. There was Constance Mercer. She was waiting outside the service entrance in a charcoal blazer, phone in one hand, earpiece in the other, and the expression of someone who had already exhausted 3 other options before being talked into this one. She looked at my van, white panel, 14 years old, Briggs Electronics and Repair in plain block letters on the side, and her expression didn't improve. "Mr. Briggs," she didn't offer her hand. "I'm VP of Technology and Security. I want to be transparent with you. We have Vandermeer Systems under contract for this property. They've had a team on site since 8 this morning, and they haven't been able to isolate the fault. I'm calling you because our facilities manager suggested it, and we're out of time." She said it all very quickly, the way you deliver information you don't particularly want the other person to dwell on. "The board convenes in just under 2 hours. What I need to know is whether you're capable of working in an enterprise-class fiber-integrated surveillance environment." I picked up my kit bag. "Which entrance?" She blinked. "This one, service." "That's fine," I said and followed her inside. The server room was on the basement level, behind the laundry and the mechanical. The Vandermeer crew, 3 men in matching polo shirts, had a laptop open on a rolling cart and a tangle of patch cables on the floor that told me everything I needed to know about how the morning had gone. One of them looked up when I came in and then looked at Constance, and the look said, "This is your call, not mine." "He's here to assist," she said, which was a careful way of putting it. I didn't say anything. I set my bag on the corner of the equipment table and opened my spiral notebook to a clean page. Then I asked the lead Vandermeer tech, a young man named Royce who had the look of someone who'd been awake since before dawn, what they'd already tried. He told me it was thorough work. They'd ruled out the camera endpoints, ruled out the DVR units on floors 2 and 3, re-terminated the main trunk line twice. The system was just dark. No fault code on the panel, no error log in the management software, nothing. I wrote down what he said in the notebook the way I've always done, not because I need to, but because putting it on paper forces you to see the shape of the problem. When Royce was done talking, I looked at what I'd written for about 30 seconds. "The fiber node," I said. Royce shook his head. "We pulled the node diagnostics at 8:40. It read clean." "It read clean because the self-test routine doesn't load the switching fabric under full traffic," I said. If the fabric's cracked, and on this model it'll crack right at the Port 3 bridge after about 4 years of thermal cycling, the node looks fine until you push a live signal through it, and then it drops everything downstream. What's downstream of Port 3? Royce looked at the schematic on his laptop. The color left his face a little. Floors 1 through 3, the lobby, the ballroom. The whole system, I said. Constance was standing near the door. I didn't look at her because I didn't need to. I opened the kit bag and took out the fiber test set, not the one Vandermeer used, a generation older but calibrated to a tolerance their unit didn't touch, and walked to the rack. It took me 9 minutes to confirm the fault. The bridge on port 3 of the fiber node was failing under live load exactly the way I'd described. I pulled the node, swapped in a compatible unit I carry in the van for exactly this kind of repair. The failure mode is common enough on this hardware generation that I started stocking the part 2 years ago and re-terminated the trunk. Then I stood at the management console and brought the system back up floor by floor. Floor 1. The lobby cameras populated in the grid green indicators across the board. Floor 2, the conference wing. Floor 3, where the guest rooms were. The ballroom feeds came up last, 12 cameras in a row, all green. The DVR units began writing. The panel showed full signal on every channel. The whole room was quiet. Royce stared at the screen for a moment. Then he said quietly, "How did you know it was the switching fabric?" "I've seen it before," I said. That was true. I'd seen it the first time in a federal building in Richmond, years ago, when the surveillance array feeding a 5-floor operations center went dark 90 minutes before a joint agency coordination meeting that could not be rescheduled. I'd been the senior analyst on call. I'd fixed it in less time than this. But that wasn't a story I told in server rooms, so I closed the notebook, capped the pen, and started breaking down my kit. Constance had moved closer during the repair. I'd been aware of her in the way you're aware of something at the edge of your vision, present, watchful, quieter than she'd been in the parking lot. When the last camera came online, she said, "How long have you been doing this?" "Long enough," I said. She nodded slowly. It wasn't dismissive this time. It was the nod of someone recalibrating. "I owe you an apology for the way I spoke to you outside," she said. "That wasn't called for." "You were under pressure," I said. "It's fine." I zipped the kit bag. The Vandermeer crew were packing their cables, and Royce handed me the patch cable I'd set aside on the cart without being asked. I thanked him. He said, "I'm going to remember this one." I was heading for the door when Constance's phone rang. She answered it, and I heard the shift in her voice before I'd taken 3 steps, the slight stiffening that means the person on the other end carries weight. "Yes, this is Constance Mercer. Yes, the system is back, about 40 minutes ago. Yes, of course, what did you need?" A pause. "We had a local technician come in, a man named Briggs. Walt Briggs, he's..." Another pause longer. "I'm sorry." I kept walking. "Mr. Briggs." Her voice was different now, not the clipped efficiency from the parking lot, steadier, almost careful. "Could you wait just a moment?" I stopped at the door and turned. She was holding the phone against her collarbone, and she was looking at me with an expression I recognized. Not embarrassment exactly, something closer to recalibration. The kind of look people get when a piece of information lands that rearranges what they thought they understood. "I have our federal security consultant on the line," she said. He's asking if you're the Walter Briggs from the Signals Analysis Division, Division 7. I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I said, "Tell him it's been a few years." She put the phone back to her ear. I heard the voice on the other end, and even from across the room I could make out the tone, not surprise exactly, but the kind of recognition that comes with a name that means something. She listened for close to a minute. Her eyes came to me twice during that time. When she lowered the phone, she said, "He says you were the senior forensic electronics analyst for the Federal Joint Surveillance Program for 28 years. He says..." She stopped, started again. He says you train half their current lab. Doug Kaminsky is a good man, I said. Tell him I said hello. She relayed it. Then she ended the call and stood there with the phone at her side, and I thought she was going to say something formal, a statement of some kind, the kind of thing you say when you need to recover ground. Instead, she said simply, I sent you to the service door. That's where the server room is, I said. She looked at me for a long moment. Then quietly she said, Thank you, Mr. Briggs, not just for the system, for not making this harder than it needed to be. I picked up my kit bag. Your board meeting should run without any trouble. You've got full signal on all 3 floors. If anything flags in the management console this afternoon, it'll be a software handshake. Just restart the controller and it'll clear. I'll tell our IT manager. You could also tell Royce, I said. He's good. He just hadn't seen that failure mode before. She nodded, I'll do that. I went upstairs through the service corridor and out to the parking lot. The ridge was clear and the valley below was sharp in the late morning light, the kind of November day that looks cold from inside but turns out to be warmer than you expect when you step into it. I loaded my kit bag into the back of the van and checked the time. 12:15. I'd be back at the shop before Cody's lunch break ended. He was behind the counter when I came through the door, eating a sandwich over a parts catalog. He looked up. How bad was it? Cracked switching fabric on the fiber node. Port 3. About 40 minutes start to finish. He nodded like this was exactly what he'd expected. Did they know what they had? I hung my apron on the hook by the back door. They do now. He went back to his catalog. I went back to the projection unit in the shop, picked up the soldering iron, and finished the job I'd started. That afternoon, a courier arrived with an envelope from the Halcyon Grand. Inside was a check for twice what I'd quoted, a handwritten note from Constance Mercer on Resort Stationery, and a separate card from the facility's manager, a man named Delbert Prout who'd worked at the property for 30 years and apparently remembered me from the kitchen display panel job 2 years ago. His card said, Figured you'd get it sorted. Glad you were available. I taped Delbert's card to the wall above the workbench, where I keep the ones that mean something. The note from Constance Mercer was gracious and specific, the kind of apology that costs the writer something. I read it twice and then filed it away. Cody asked what was in the envelope. I told him it was payment for the Halcyon job. That it, he said. I thought about the server room, about Royce's face when the cameras came back online, about Doug Kaminsky's voice on the phone, 20 years and several hundred miles away, saying a name like it still carried weight. Pretty much, I said. He seemed satisfied with that. We closed up at 6, same as always, and drove home on Route 11 with the last of the daylight running long and gold across the valley. Cody had the radio on low. I had the window cracked. There are things you carry out of 28 years of that kind of work that never go away. The habit of reading a system before you touch it. The patience to let the problem tell you what it is. The knowledge that most failures have a shape if you know where to look. I'd set it down when I left, but setting something down doesn't mean it leaves. It just waits in the drawer quiet until the day someone needs it.